So hi all, my name is Stacy Mildenberger. I'm a customer success manager for state and local government accounts in Florida. I am holding down our Cute for Teams office hours session today. Our fearless leader Ricardo is otherwise tied up, so I told him I would be happy to launch and run the show today. So we've started our recording. Just be aware of that as you're posing questions or have anything that you'd like to interject. This session is recorded so that it can be shared, and we hope that we uncover some questions that you all might have or like to share. You know, this is an open office hour, so feel free to throw your questions into chat, raise your hand, interrupt me at any time. And of course, when we run out of questions, I always have a couple of things that I can show off as well. So we'll take some time for that if we have some. So right off, I see that Glenn has asked in the chat to briefly review the new advanced whiteboard features, which were recently released. And I'm going to make an assumption, Glenn, so correct me if I'm wrong, but I am guessing that you're referring to whiteboard features in Teams meetings. If that's not what you're referring to, then I'll be happy to do a little research on the side and see. Oh, great. Thank you for confirming in the chat that yes, that's what you're after. So I am going to share my demo tenant, and we can talk through some of those new features together. So let me launch that in just a sec, and we'll take a look. Okay, so you should be looking at my demo tenant here. I'm logged in as mod administrator. I do have some pretty hefty controls here, but for what we're going to take a look at with regards to Whiteboard, I don't need any special controls. I have the meeting policies assigned, so we'll just create a Whiteboard sample meeting. And I'll go ahead and add another persona who I can have join from the browser in just a moment. For your reference, this person that I'm adding is internal to this demo tenant. And I'm going to go ahead and send that invite so that all of those meeting extensibility tools are available to me, including Whiteboard. So one of the cool things, and let me just show you this really quickly before I join. I have access to that whiteboard even in pre-meeting. So if you'll notice, I haven't joined this meeting yet. I'm just looking at the details for the meeting where I can control the options. I can reference the link. I can add additional people. I can do all of that from this tab here in the meeting from the calendar. But I can also go ahead and open the whiteboard, which is kind of handy if you think about it, because I'll be able to pre-populate this whiteboard with some content that might help me during my discussion time. If I wanted to take care of that in advance of the meeting, I certainly could by utilizing this tab before I even join. So just wanted to make sure I showed that off. And then let's join, and then we'll talk through some of those extra features that Glenn has observed or wants to observe. Now, I'll note just for good of the order that I do not have a camera connected to this demo right now. I've been doing some testing and tinkering with that and I don't have it enabled. So that's why it is showing as a disabled toggle right now. But I'll go ahead and join. Again, this is in my demo tenant, so it's not going to affect our current discussion. And I'll jump over to another screen and have Johanna join as well. So that we can interact there. Almost there. Okay, in comes Johanna. And you can see that she's arrived in our meeting here. Now we have the ability to do the whiteboard collaboration by clicking on the share option here and then opening whiteboard. I'm doing so from my mod administrator persona and Johanna's screen. Oh, I wonder if I can get these side by side so you can see both interactions. One sec, I'm going to do a reshare. I'm going to configure my layout here so that you guys can see both personas in the view. Because we are just cool like that in the office hours, aren't we? Almost got it.
Stacy, your screen dropped. I can't see your screen anymore.
Yep, and I'm just getting ready to reshare it. What I wanted to do is put those personas side by side for you so you could see the interaction as it comes across in the browser for Johanna and in the desktop client for Mod Administrator. We're going to do a little side by side. So you're actually going to see both whiteboards, both whiteboard meeting sessions happening in real time. So on the left here, you have my mod administrator. This is the organizer's view. And on the right, where you see that purple cursor moving in like a circular motion, that is Johanna's view of the same meeting and the same whiteboard. Okay, so I just did that so that you could see the interaction and in real time. So let's see, we have some template options that might be interesting to start from a template. And you can see there's many choices available to us. Let's go ahead and choose one that I'm fairly familiar with. Actually, let me back up and see if we can do something kind of cool. Has anybody played with these templates yet here in Whiteboard?
We have. They're really good.
What do you think?
They're good. Sometimes when you add them, they're a little tiny, and so you've got to scale them. And if you choose the wrong one, you need to delete it right away because once it's active, it's kind of hard to delete the parts. Although somebody on my squad said we need to use the lasso tool, and that makes it a lot easier to delete it.
Ah, cool. Well, see, lessons learned we can share with each other. That's
yeah,
awesome.
Exactly. Because sometimes you pick the wrong board and you're like, I don't really like this template. I'm going to do a different one. And
right. Yeah, and I'm just kind of tinkering and trying to figure out which one might be a good one for us to grab now. I think let's do this daily stand-up one. And we'll bring it over. And once I drop it there, yeah, you can see what was being discussed as the sizing and maybe wanting to do some resizing. So you can see it's popped up over here, and let's just see what I can tweak about it. Ooh, that's tiny. Oh, you guys are going to see how bad my mouse skills are. See how much larger we can make that. And you can see things are starting to happen over here for Johanna. She's way zoomed in, so I'm going to zoom her out. Or she's going to zoom herself out, I should say, right? Because this is her canvas over here. And when she's mousing around on her screen, and this is probably really confusing for you to understand what I'm doing, but on the right side where you see just the purple arrow, that's me interacting on Johanna's whiteboard. And on the left, you can see the other participant in the meeting. You can see their view of what's happening. And it's just tracking along with Johanna's mouse to keep me in tune on both screens. And it looks like I missed a resizing.
This is really helpful because it's a view we don't see.
Right.
This
right.
is good. Thanks for doing this.
Yeah, of course. You can see there's a couple of elements that look a little wonky, and that's just because in attempting to lasso, I missed this particular tile, so it's not sized as the same as the other ones. So that'll be a little lesson you can learn from my mismanagement of this, and that's just to make sure you have all pieces selected before you go stretching things, because they can get out of sync. Now, in addition to the templates, there is a laser pointer tool. I believe that's one of the new features. So let's just say that I have an image that I want to point something out in particular. Let's test it and see if it'll show up for Johanna. So as I am highlighting on the left, is it showing up for Johanna? It doesn't appear to be yet. I wonder if there's a little delay. Let's give it a moment. Let's try it the other way. Let's see if Johanna's will show up for Mod Administrator. I'm not seeing anything register on the other side. And again, these are both in the same tenant. So either I'm totally confusing things because of having it side by side, or there could be, and I'll have to do a double check on this, there could be a limitation that you need to be in the desktop client, or all participants might need to be in order to have that laser pointer share. So I'll check into that. And let's see what else we can tinker with. If the laser pointer will table, but now let's go and see if Johanna, okay, so the regular pin marks are working just fine between the tenants and between the client and the browser. So that's good. And let's say we want to change our color, make it a little thicker. I should have, oh, it's an arrow. I should have chosen a tic-tac board since I'm into the X's and O's today. And then let me jump back over to the Mod Administrator view here and try another little option. That is so thin. I'm going to thicken that up so it'll show up a little bit better. But you can see on the right, Johanna's picking up what I'm putting down from a pen perspective. The inking is working beautifully between the two. And we'll just do way to go. Great. Okay, what other features should we test out really quickly here, Glenn? I've made a note about that laser pointer and validating across the different users and how they're joining. So I'll verify that. Any other questions or anything you'd like me to try? I'm sorry, I'm not watching chat. If anyone can do a little support for me, give me an audible.
Sticky notes.
Sticky notes, yes. Okay, so let's go over here to Johanna and let's pick us a pretty blue note that I'm going to stick somewhere on here and resize. And in here, I just double click and then I can start adding some text. So it's, easy to add, and then I can, mod administrator can come here and add additional notes on this particular note or this particular sticky note. And it's showing up and updating on both sides. So that one is not inhibited at all between the two, whether you're joining from a browser or you're joining from the client, which is good news. And we can then pick this sticky note up, move it around. This would be really, really, I think, effective if you perhaps want to have the Kanban board feel of moving sticky notes around. Of course, you can do that in Planner as well, but let's just say that you and your team prefer the whiteboard approach. You have that, and of course, there's a template that'll help you do that as well. But yeah, that seems pretty effective.
And then for team members who missed the meeting, I think there's a way to save and send, isn't there?
Yeah, the entire whiteboard. Yeah, let's see. We can rename it here, and I might have to maximize this view so I can do it as so I can see all my options here. So whiteboards are now by default being stored in OneDrive. So you're going to have a OneDrive folder dedicated for your whiteboard drawings, and you can certainly go there and share it from there, and I can show you that in just a moment. But you can also export it as an image and share that as well. And if you really, I love this, you have the ability to lock it down so you don't have to share edits with other people. If you don't want them editing your whiteboard, you can just continue on and draw your own whiteboard and limit that access. So that's kind of a cool thing that's available now in the little settings cog here. So I'm going to go ahead and export this. And it just takes a moment. And you can see it dumps it in your downloads folder. So let me show you in OneDrive. Let's do this. Let me stop sharing and then I'll jump to focus in on where these whiteboards live. So I'll leave the meeting there. Okay, you should be about to see, if you don't see it yet, my demo tenant back for Mod Administrator. As you guys just saw, I exported the image for that whiteboard, so I can jump down to this downloads file, and then I can see the exported PNG file, and then I can do whatever I'd like with it from there. And I will show you where it lives in your OneDrive. So this is the OneDrive for my Mod Administrator. I have a whiteboard folder here, and in this folder, I can see all of the meeting whiteboards that I have interacted with or whiteboards that I have saved previously. I'm looking here. Here is today's whiteboard sample meeting. And you can see it automatically stored that there for me. I didn't have to remember to export it or do anything like that. It is building that whiteboard from here by default for me whenever I use a whiteboard in a meeting. So just keep that in mind. The organizer of the meeting is going to have that whiteboard storage. And from here, you can share as needed, as you can share any other thing or any other file from your OneDrive. So hopefully that helped. Let's see what other.
Oh, great. Thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure. It looks like we have about 8 minutes left, and I did want to show you a kind of a cool thing with Power BI and Teams integration. If everybody's okay with that, I'll jump over to that quick demo just to give you something to chew on, see, between now and next week. So in Teams, in the government cloud now, we have Power BI that's available. Of course, if you're not familiar with Power BI is Microsoft's first-party reporting tool and data cruncher. And I'll go ahead and click on Power BI on the left rail. I'm adding that as a personal app. If you do this in your own Teams environment and you aren't seeing Power BI there, then it could be something that your IT department still needs to enable. I find that many of the first-party Microsoft apps are enabled much more readily by a lot of IT shops, so hopefully it's there for you. But if it's not, your IT administrators are who you need to approach if you'd like to do what I'm about to show you. So I've gone ahead and I have searched up Power BI and I've pinned it to the left rail by left or right clicking and clicking pin. That means Teams is going to hold that there for me. And what I wanted to show you is the way to look at your own Teams analytics here. Because this is a personal use of Power BI, I can click on Create, and in one click, Teams has made available a Power BI report that'll allow you to analyze your own Teams data. This is not something that's shared with managers or made available to anyone but you, but it is here for you to check out. If you're interested in Power BI or you're interested in how you're using Teams every day, with one click, I'll go ahead and do it myself. I can launch a Power BI data analysis for just my use in Teams. And I'll say this particular one is in my demo tenant that I'm not in and out of every day. I'm going to do this in my Microsoft tenant as soon as this call's over because I'm really curious about my use of Teams. And this is going to uncover a lot of analytics for me on that. I'm going to go ahead and make this full screen here. Hopefully that means you see it. So keep in mind, my screen looks dramatically different, but I am still just seeing good old Teams. I can still see my chat notifications and activity notifications as they come in, but in Power BI's app on the left rail, I have drilled into my own Teams analytics. So from here, I can see that I've been in 11 meetings, that I organized all 11 of those meetings. Again, this is my demo tenant, so that's not surprising. I have had an hour and 47 minutes in the last 31 days. You can see the time period is available up here where I've been sharing audio or sharing video and how much screen sharing I've done from here. I have my chat message counts and summaries. So this is all very intuitive and telling you the data that you would be curious to know. And Jim, there's no need for a Power BI Pro license or anything like that in order to do this. This is available, I believe, down to a G3, which I believe you're licensed at that level at your agency. But I'll double check after this just to make sure. But you can scroll through these tabs of reporting and look across your teams. You can see how many active users are in those teams. You can see how many active channels there are, like this particular emergency operations center team. I have the most channels in that team. I can see how many channels have, or how many teams have the most posts. Again, it's looking back, let's see, it looks like maybe roughly 90 days, maybe there. So it's compiling all this data for me. I didn't do any customization here. You saw me launch this from the beginning. That tile for your Teams analytics will be there under the Create tab in the Power BI app. So it's just a neat way to kind of get a feel for how much activity you have going on in teams. I actually am going to challenge my peer group across the CSMs to take a look at their analytics and share that across, just because I'm curious. I'm in teams all day, every day, and I think it would be really kind of fun to see how many across our team are sending more than, say, 200 chats or 300 chats in a 30-day time period. I think that would be fun. So anyway, I just wanted to show you that's a quick thing to do, especially if you are new to Power BI and want to see a report that's already been built out for you in action. This Teams Analytics one is pretty cool for that. Well, guys, if there's no other standing questions, we can certainly give you a minute or two back of your day, but I'm grateful for you all continuing to join in these office hours meetings. And I know Ricardo is committed to continue them, and we're looking forward to answering your questions week after week and look forward to all the use cases we can come up with together. And next week, I'd love to hear if you guys are able to fire up that Power BI personal app on the left rail and take a look at your team's analytics. It sure would be fun to talk about what you found in that analysis. So thanks, and everybody have a great day. Talk to you next week.